Hi everyone, this is the Wild Rift Patch Notes 1.1 rundown or analysis. Now I know this is a little bit of a late analysis, but what I'm going to be talking about here is a bite-sized information video about how you can abuse the changes that was being placed in this Patch Notes 1.1 and how it impacted the meta, right? And how, you can use some of these changes to abuse and climb your rank. So we're going to kick this off really fast. So first of all, we're going to talk about Jhin. Right, the Jhin nerfs itself were pretty big. I think now the top 4 AD carries would definitely be MF, Draven, Jhin, as well as Kai'Sa. Now, Jhin generally became more utility based after this. So if you're looking to climb, just play more Misfortune. If you can't play Draven, it's okay. You can play some Kai'Sa. But I think Jhin is definitely relegated from S tier into maybe an A tier champion that is going to be played more in competitive than in solo queue. Right, Varus buffs. So interestingly enough, the Varus buff sort of moved him towards an AP damage dealer. Whilst I don't think he will be in the meta anytime soon, as long as more teams try to figure out where they can place him and how he can be played, he will definitely find some time to enter the meta, but that time is not going to be now. Right, even if he does come, he will be as an AP damage dealer. Right, Ezreal nerf. So I think the Ezreal nerf really destroyed this champion. I don't think you should be playing him anymore. He's not going to be that reliable ADC that can always scale comfortably. He's going to be out damaged by even a Misfortune or Jinx, Kai'Sa. So don't play this champion, right? If you are conscious about climbing rank, Ezreal is not the champion that you want to be playing. Akali, I think these Akali buffs do not make sense, right? She was always a good champion, always has been a good champion, and it's just that people needed some time to figure out how to play her, when to play her, and the play style of playing her, right? Definitely for now, if you are a Baron laner or top laner and want to be climbing rank, you have to be playing Akali, because this champion is right now the apex of top laners. You win every single top laner in the current meta, and except for tanks, right? But nobody plays tanks in solo queue. So you definitely have to be looking to play Akali, and there's no excuse for not learning her if you want to climb rank. Evelynn. Evelynn is one of those champions that in this patch became such a monster, right? These buffs extremely controversial, especially with the range buff. 1.5 buff is a lot, and even Riot themselves has said that they were taking a look at Evelynn and will nerf her sometime in the future. So right now, if you want to climb, play Evelynn mid or top lane. Make sure you buy the champion so that you can first pick it for your team, even if you can't play it. And then, just don't buy a skin for her, because she's going to get nerfed soon. But the thing is, now let's just talk about how we can sort of counter her with certain champions. So champions that would do well against her is if you can poke her in lane, right, outrange her or outduel her 1v1. Because we already give up on the fact that, okay, this champion clears the waves too fast, but I can't contest her for that. Let's contest her in some other ways. So certain champions could be Akali, Orianna, Gragas, even Yasuo, right? So these are 4 champions that Gragas, Orianna, you can poke her from range, right? You can sort of sustain the damage with Gragas passive, or you can just completely outrange her with Orianna. Yasuo and Akali are different cases where you can look to actually maybe just 1v1 her straight up. Akali is probably easier matchup to play. Yasuo probably has to take advantage of the Evelynn being, maybe new to the champion or not understanding the full limits. Right, Akali is a lot easier to abuse, especially if you are very proficient with her. Okay, moving on to Amumu. So these Amumu nerfs really impacted him, especially with the previous nerfs. But I think no matter what, he's still going to be good in solo queue. In a competitive setting, maybe not anymore, but in solo queue, he's still going to be that reliable grenade that is just pure CC, pure magic damage. You will still be able to use him and climb rank with him. It's just that you probably do not want to be playing him into Lee Sin, right? Or maybe even Vi, right? But against something like Shyvana, Graves, where you won't get invaded early and you still can play the matchup and, smooth sailing, get your first items, still be extremely powerful in team fights. So Amumu is still going to be good, but just probably don't pick him into Lee Sin and Vi. Blitzcrank. I think the Blitzcrank nerfs this time around were really too much, but it definitely made the champion into a very skill-based champion. You have to make every hook count, you have to make every roam count, especially with the mana nerfs. So this definitely changes the support tier list. I think Alistar and Braum are going to be the best supports at the moment. Blitzcrank definitely out of the picture from the S tier list, right? It's just going to be Alistar, Braum, Janna, maybe even Seraphine. Right, Lee Sin. Lee Sin nerf, very glad to see this. Definitely puts more skill on the champion because people need to know how well they have to play him, right? To go in, execute somebody or kick somebody back and still survive, right? It's going to be a lot harder with the, his second skill being nerfed. Lee Sin is still going to be the best early game jungler in solo queue especially. He's still going to be good in competitive if your jungler is very confident on the champion, right? If he's a really good Lee Sin player, I think it doesn't matter, right? So I think no matter what, Lee is still going to be good in solo queue. It's just that it opens up more space for junglers, especially like Vi and Shyvana, to sort of exploit that area where Lee Sin was good in every part of the game. Now he's a lot worse than Shyvana in the later stages of the game, and Vi will definitely bring more value later on, whilst being able to match the aggression from Lee in the early game. Right, Gragas nerf. I think this Gragas nerf is it's been due for a long time. It's just that I'm not sure why they even buffed him in the first place. He was always good. It's just that nobody decided to play him. At this point in time, I think Gragas is still good in the game, right? He's still very flexible, can be played all 4 roles except AD carry or except the marksman. And I think this change just means that you probably can't be building him full AP damage as a support champion, because you have very little gold and you're now getting lesser gold efficiency for building him full AP on support, right? You probably just want to be building support items like the Ziggs and the Protector's Vow. Otherwise, I don't think it matters. You would still build full AP on jungle, top and mid Gragas. Tank items. So tank item wise, Last Whisper being nerfed, I don't think it really matters, because in this current meta, the game is so fast paced. Almost every single champion is building full damage, and even if you reach a point where everyone is like full items, that's the only point in time where these nerfs really matter. But before that, like even champions like Amumu, Shyvana, champions you would normally consider to be frontliners, are building full AP or full damage, like Liandry's, Triforce first. So in that case, like, does it really matter? It definitely makes a little bit of difference with everybody rushing Guardian's Angel, so it does certainly nerf that little aspect, but I don't think this was the right change that they intended to do. They should have probably decided to buff tank items instead of nerfing Last Whisper. Right, active items, teleport, stasis and QSS being buffed and nerfed. I think it's very interesting that they nerf QSS, because it definitely brings the priority of champions like Amumu slightly higher, because in the past, like, these champions were too easy to counter, right? You buy on QSS and then you are completely safe from them, right? So it definitely gives more value to like Amumu, Ashe, Ahri, these kind of champions that heavily rely on CC. And the stasis enchant being nerfed is definitely, being buffed is definitely a nerf to champions like Zed, Fizz, assassins that rely on that one burst spell, right? I think I really like the teleport enchant being buffed here, because it gives more space for top laners to play carry champions, because champions, they are in the carry position for Baron laners, want to be in that lane, pulling pressure to them in the side lane, using teleport to the opposite side of the map. Now, because all of these defensive enchantments are all the same price, they won't be spending like an extra 500 gold compared to somebody that bought QSS in the past. So this really makes carry top laners way more viable. And we can see this is further backed up, right, by the experience sharing being nerfed. This not only promotes support roaming even more, right, it also promotes carry top laners to be more impactful in the game, because right now, if you are a top lane main, you feel very disconnected from the game, because your bot lane is going to dictate the pace of the game. If your bot lane is behind, you can't really do much, because the map is so small and objectives are so important in this game. So this definitely brings more power to your mid and top lane. Although the nerf for XP sharing isn't very noticeable, right? It definitely opens up the game slightly and brings lesser power to, you know, some of these bot lane champions like Misfortune and Draven that can really take over games. So I think overall this is really good. The Smite change here, I think this is very normal. It's expected that they would change this because they want to avoid the funneling meta where basically carry champions are both farming minions and jungle camps at the same time. It's too uninteresting and boring to watch, right? Jungle monsters, Baron and Scuttlecrab increasing by 30 seconds respawn time. I think this is very straightforward. It's going to be very good for the competitive scene because although it might increase the game time, it gives more time for the team on the losing side to, you know, come back in the game. When you are behind, you want to be looking for picks on the opposite side instead of contesting for Baron, and you have this 30 seconds of extra time for you to make that pick, get that impact and pressure on the opposite side, and really look for ideas on the side where you know, Baron is not at, because you can't contest the winning side 5v5 if you are already behind. So I really like this change for the competitive scene. Doesn't have any changes involved in solo queue. I don't think it really matters, right? The Smite and the Baron change and Scuttlecrab change, don't really think it matters. Experience sharing change, very slight but moving in the right direction. Overall, right, because this is the end of the patch notes, I think all these changes really make a big difference, especially for top laners in this meta, right? If you are looking to be a top laner and climb rank, you have to be playing Akali, have to know how to play Evelynn, right? These are two champions right now that you cannot pass up as your top or mid lane, because these two champions in the current patch is just way too busted and there's so little ways to play against them, right? Other carry top laners could be Fiora, you know, Olaf, maybe even Wukong and Darius are pretty good in the mid game itself. Regarding jungle role, I think Lee Sin still going to be good, Vi, Shyvana are still going to be the top 3, but Amumu Graves are still somewhat playable, especially into each other or into a Shyvana, which allows you to farm. But they definitely rely a lot more on your laners being you know, competent and relevant enough to help you, rather than you being able to solo carry like a Lee Sin or Vi. Mid lane wise, just play Eve, play Akali. If you are playing into Evelynn, you can play your Orianna, play Akali, Gragas, you know, to sort of stop her or outduo her, you know, sustain against her, right? AD carry, just play MF, Jhin, Draven, Kai'Sa. Right now, MF is probably the strongest ADC. Draven is probably the strongest if you have a good 2v2 matchup. MF is just the standalone strongest. Kai'Sa has been popping up a lot because she's very low risk, where you sort of just outscale the enemy if you don't explode in the lane in the early game. So you can also consider that option. Support wise, Alistar, Braum, Janna, and maybe even Nami or Seraphine, right? Which are two other options that extremely different but have their own niche picks, right? Seraphine is very good looking for engagers. Nami is very good looking for disengagers, right? Janna overall is more consistent as a disengage tool. Seraphine is just able to abuse maybe like Braum or Alistar in the laning phase, right? But there are a lot of ways to play around that. So right now, in tier list order, it could just be Alistar, Braum, Janna, and then Seraphine, Nami, right? So that is the overall overview of how this patch has really defined the meta and what are the top few champions for each role. I hope you enjoyed this little short rundown. I think, let me know if you prefer this or like the longer, maybe 40-50 minutes individual patch change analysis, rather than this overall overview, very short, 20 minutes, 15 minutes rundown. Alright, thanks.